a really special moment because just before that, in 2003, I competed against Saulo Ribeiro. I was a 19-year-old brown belt. And I saw him in Brazil later that year. He invited me to train with him, and I told my dad about it. My dad is a lifetime martial artist. He's the one that got me into martial arts, and he was running our school back then. And my dad ended up getting his black belt in 2003, 1 year before me. We became the first father and son American Jiu-Jitsu black belts. I told my dad about the experience with Saulo, and I said, man, we should really get him out for a seminar. And so in 2004, in February, I believe it was, he came and did a seminar in Oklahoma City at our school. And he spent the whole week there with us, trained with me every day, helped me so much, just pure generosity, just giving. And I was in college at that time. And I really did not like college. I didn't want to do anything normal as far as like having a regular career. I wanted to do jiu-jitsu, but back then we didn't know how to make that possible. And I told Saulo what my goals were, that I wanted to be a black belt world champion. And he basically said, you know, if you want to be a black belt world champion, why are you going to school? And it was the first time that I had anyone like be so blunt about it to me like that. And he was like, why don't you go all in on your dreams? Go move to Brazil, train with me and my team every day, train with Shanji every day.
The first time I met Lovato was 2002, maybe, 2001. He fought one of our guys. He ended up beating one of our guys. And he fought my brother. I guess that's the best way to really meet someone, is to go and battle them, right? And he fought Saulo, gave Saulo, you know, at the beginning of a little hard time. I'm like, whoa, who's this guy? You know, he was very talented, very stoic, very respectful, you know. And then my brother just invited him to come over, and then he took the courage and he did. That was impressive.
And I was like, oh really, you would let me do that? Like, you know, I'm a gringo from another team that fought him, and I'm the same size as him and Shanji. I could easily fight them again. And he gave me the invitation to go and stay and train with him and his team. 2 weeks later, I dropped out of college and I moved to Brazil. And I lived there for 4 months, from like April to the end of July for the World Championships. And I was still a brown belt, and I fell short of my goal. I double bronze at the World Cup, but I lost at the World Championships. It wasn't meant to be, and it was a real disappointment because I'd stayed for 4 months, trained, worked so hard to become a brown belt world champion, because I wanted to be a world champion before I got my black belt. And it didn't happen. So I came back home, and literally like a week after coming home from Brazil, I ended up getting my black belt from my first professor, Carlos Machado. He was the first person to move to our area of the country, in Dallas, Texas. So me and my father could learn jiu-jitsu from somebody without having to travel all the way to California or Brazil. And he was an amazing professor, amazing teacher. But at this point, I was already developing my relationship with Shanji and Saulo, and I really wanted that mentorship for how to be a world champion. Well, it all came together in like the most crazy way, you know, grand slamming. It wasn't even a thing yet. It didn't have that name. And it was a little bit by accident because I knew that I wanted to do the Europeans and start the season early. And Shanji was down to go with me. And so we went to Portugal, and I took gold there. And then I had the Pans, and won the Pans. You always do the Pans because the Pans is in the U.S. And then that year they announced for the first time they were going to move the Worlds to the U.S. 2007 was the first time the Worlds was held in the U.S. And so I was like, man, I was like excited and happy, but I was also a little bit sad because my dream as a kid was to win in Brazil. And seeing the Worlds in that time is just so special. And I set my goal then. I gotta win the Worlds, and I want to win in Brazil, that whole thing. And then when they said the Worlds were moving to the U.S., I was like, well, I gotta go do the Brasileiro. And I had never won the Brasileiro, and so I went to Brazil by myself, competed by myself, and I won the Brasileiro. And that was huge for me because that really gave me a confidence boost for the Worlds.
That was interesting because the year before that I got to win double gold, we trained together, we did everything, but he got sick. And he couldn't compete, right? So he didn't make it to 2006. 2007, the Worlds came to United States, and we kept like just pondering about like, hey man, how cool to be if you win, like that was our dream.
And then, so many things like no-gi worlds, and I went back to Brazil again in 2013, and I won the Absolute that year, the Brasileiro, the first gringo to win an IBJJF major Absolute. Kept doing the work, just the work never stopped, and I gave all of my 20s to Jiu-Jitsu. And then when I turned 30, I started MMA. Had my first fight at 31, and went to MMA, became an MMA world champion. I ended up having some health issues, and I was unable to continue fighting. I had to relinquish my belt. And then I came back to Jiu-Jitsu again. I never really fully stopped. I was still doing some super fights and some little things here and there between my MMA fights. But when all of that ended and I couldn't fight MMA anymore, then I came all back into Jiu-Jitsu and had this kind of like second run, almost like a third career. I had my Jiu-Jitsu career, then I had MMA career, and then a third run, a third career coming back to Jiu-Jitsu.
Rafael has always been a high achiever. I don't think he breaks record, he starts the records.
Big body pull up in a Range Rover.
All right, he's a history maker, right? Like, in a World, which is interesting because when he won Worlds in 2007, we just realized, hey, you won all tournaments. Right? I say, whoa, I Grand Slammed it. And that's where the first idea of a Grand Slam started. And they were talking about because then the whole Grand Slam started to happen. He's like, wait a minute, nobody ever won the no-gi ones. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's go,
Make it look easy. Make it look easy. I know I make it look easy. Too smooth, I make it look easy. I know we make it look easy.
he's a guy that is driven by challenges. Even today, I was like, why are you doing this? Like, man, I can't stay home.
Like inside man, two wavy, swallow your pride. All of my guys, call them they slide, they will oblige. Called them, I told them you playing with me. Now look, all of them starting to riot. Whoa, When I'm in your city, it's magic. When I'm all in my bag, it gets tragic.
I'm proud that I never gave up, right? And I just kept believing. You see the victories, but I joke around with my students like, none of them have lost more than me. I lost every Worlds I did before black belt, then I became a black belt world champion. And then I lost, I never won the Worlds again as a black belt. I medaled 8 times in a row, but I didn't win another gold. There's a lot of hardships, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of temporary failures, injuries, life, all of it doesn't stop.
He's part of who he is. I think being a champion is just a result of who he is. I don't think he wants to come here and like, hey, look at me. No, he lives there every day because I've been with him for 24 years now. Has always been this way.
How can you keep going and keep believing and stay motivated, stay inspired, keep the passion, keep the fire burning? I'm very proud that I've been able to do that for so long. I think that's why I'm still here today in my 40s doing well with the young guys, because I never lost my fire.
It's for you. Daddy loves you. Thank you, baby. I loved 7 times.
I never seen him complaining about a headache. I never seen him sick. He doesn't drink. He always thought about his recovery, everything that's a trend now. We have always done. Like, let's recover properly. How do you don't do? He watches what he eats. He watches what he's consuming on the internet. He reads a lot, super smart, and he's a father now. So I think the responsibility grows a little bit because he goes from being a champion and someone that inspires himself, now inspires his family. And it's incredible, and if there's more things records to break or records to make, we're there.
And I always just redefine my purpose and understand that, there's always a next chapter to write. And so it doesn't matter what happened. Now you're in charge of the next chapter and how do you want the story to end? But then at the end, it doesn't end. There's always going to be another thing. And so I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that inside of my journey, I feel that I've been able to make a positive impact.